Hello. So the idea of this video is literally just to quickly go through. I just watched the lap pedal show guys, and they put together what they thought was like a good budget rig for however much money. I think Dan's came to somewhere around £400, and Mick's came to somewhere around just over £1,000. So quite a large variance in budgets there. But their picks Dan ended up going for like a no-name amp for about 30 quid, whereas Mick went for a Boss Katana. And then guitar-wise, I think Dan picked like a Squier Affinity, Mick picked a Epiphone Casino. And pedal-wise, they both picked 3 pedals. There's a Memory Boy in there for one of them. I think Mick picked a vintage like Electro Harmonics Worm for modulation sounds. And then they both picked a couple of Chinese knockoff sort of pedals. So I just wanted to throw a couple of ideas out there because I imagine there are actual beginners that might want useful advice in this area. So this is my advice in this area. So first of all, the amp is kind of important, and there's loads of cheap amps and ranging to more expensive amps that are all fairly not very good and kind of difficult to get good tones out of. So I would just like to recommend a couple of cheapish amps, especially if you go used route, that actually do sound pretty good. So I've got a Yamaha THR10 there, and I just recommended one of these to a friend of mine and bought it for him. He got the THR10 Classic, but literally all of them are fine and sound great. So that's, hold on, this is just have. That's just the core tone. But you've got loads of effects and delay on them. I've done a video on the THR before, and loads of different amp choices, and then you can deeply edit each of them. If you plug it in via USB, you've got a compressor, noise gate, and all that sort of stuff. So actual useful and good sounding guitar tones. Yes, it's in a small package. Probably you're not going to gig with it, but I guess as a beginner, you're not going to be gigging anyway. They didn't really set any parameters as to why they're picking the amps, but for me, if you're a beginner or intermediate and looking for like a budget-ish rig, I would say the Yamaha THR will get you everything you need at home. The other options are a Vox Adio, which I've also done videos on, and they've got great sounds, and both of these amps can get pretty loud enough for home use, almost to that level where you could mic it up and sort of get through a rehearsal or maybe, you know, like a small duo gig. Obviously it's not going to keep up the drummer particularly well, but as a beginner intermediate type player, I'm not imagining you would be, but if that's what you've got in mind, then a Boss Katana I would say is a good choice, especially used secondhand. So yeah, like a Yamaha THR and Adio, you can get secondhand for about 130 quid. I would recommend them highly. And I'd also say that would be a better way to spend your money than 3 pedals, because having a better amp, if you have a dodgy amp, putting any pedal through it will generally sound fairly dodgy. That's what they found in their video as well. It's what I know from experience. So you could have all the Strymon pedals, all the Analog King of Tones that you want, spend money and sink money into that side of things. If you put it through a dodgy amp, it will sound still dodgy. the converse of that is not true, because actually you can get very decent sounding pedals for about 18 quid, which is what I would recommend. I will get to that in a sec. So yeah, if you've got a limited budget, I would spend more on amp, more on guitar, and less on pedals. If you have to have pedals, then by all means spend a bit on pedals. But in terms of return on investment, you're getting more for your money out of the amp and the guitar. Right, so on to pedal choices. I think something useful for home use is a looper pedal. This is a Donna Deluxe looper. I think you can get a ditto for about 30, 40 quid secondhand. So I'd say get a looper. This is a Donna looper. Gilad Hexelman uses one. I think I paid probably about 30 quid for it, maybe, on eBay. I would say a looper is a great thing to have, not just for doing loopy things, but also for if you've got a limited budget, maybe you're not going to be able to afford a metronome, although you can get an app for your phone which will do that side of things. But I think a looper is one of the most creative and inspiring tools that you can get. So I would recommend a looper. So that's like 30 quid. The next pedal I've gone for is, I'm just going to move seats, Behringer Tube Overdrive. Now this is a pretty spot on clone of the Ibanez Tube Screamer, and it uses the same chips that they use in, as in Behringer make the chips that they use in the more expensive Ibanez Tube Screamers. So you're basically getting what you need in the Tube Screamer realm, if that's your thing. So a Tube Screamer is also fairly versatile. Yes, it's got that mid hump, but with the use of the tone, with the use of the tone control on the drive, you get quite a variety of different stuff. So yeah, that pedal for me, I think I got that for 18 or 19 quid from Tom. So I've also recommended that. I've got a couple of guitar students, and that's the pedal that I say grab that first, because then whatever amp you've got, not within reason, most amps you can set up a nice-ish clean, kick in the Tube Screamer, and you've got a cool sounding overdrive bordering on distortion tone. That should get you most of where you need to go, certainly as a beginner. Right, so that's two of my pedals. So I've got the Donna looper, which was about 30 quid, the Behringer Tube Overdrive, which you can get cheaper new than secondhand generally. So if you get that from Tom, that's about like 18, 19 quid. Then this other pedal I've got is actually a reverb and a delay in one, and it's called the Amoon Verb. You can get that on Amazon, I believe. But yeah, really little cool pedal. So yeah, a really cool delay and reverb at the same time, and you can also change all of the parameters on there. But for me, if you're really on a budget and you're looking for choices that on making the most of your money, I would say that's a pretty good one. So yeah, that's the Amoon Pock Verb, which I think I got for about 36 quid, something like that. So again, all of those three pedal choices, I got all of them for the £100 all in. The amp, £130, I just bought one for a mate. So £230. And then they were talking about power supplies, which is one of the reasons that I wouldn't recommend that if you're on a real budget, that you go via the kind of stomp box world. Obviously, they're that pedal show and it's about pedals. I think if you're a beginner guitarist, maybe that the pedal side of things is not the first place that I would go spend money. But if I was, the thing that I would use to power those pedals is called a Harley Benton. Let me just look. Stomp Control ISO 4, which is what I've got here. I can't really show you because it's Velcro to the side of my cab for making my demo videos and stuff. But that you can switch in. It's like a gig rig Quartermaster, which is one of the products that Dan on that pedal show invented. But so that will switch in your channel in the pedals, like in a looper, but it also powers the pedals. One's 500 and one is I think 300 milliamps. So you could power quite a lot of stuff. And you've got the ability to power 5 pedals. So I would suggest that's a good way forward. I think that's about 70 quid. So that takes me up to what, 230, 300 quid before I bought a guitar. So yeah, it's a bit more than what Dan would have spent. It's way less than what Mick would have spent. But I think actually this is kind of a more useful setup for a beginner. And also neither of them mentioned that you might want a tuner. So a tuner, if you buy the headstock tuners, which are about 7 quid. But I think a tuner is probably more important than pedals for sure, because they were talking about going to gigs and stuff. One of the most important things if you're going to a gig is going to be in tune. So that's a key thing. So yeah, my picks would be a Yamaha THR10, a Donna Deluxe Looper, a Behringer Tube Overdrive, and a Moon Pock Verb, and then I'd power it all with a Harley Benton Stomp Control ISO 4. That's what I think on that front. So people will ask, where's Fenton? Shall I go and get him? Hold on, Bill. If you're still there, Bill, say something else. I'm going to get Fenton. So my good friend there, Bill Banwell, is actually the bass player for a band called Building in Skyscrapers, which are like a really busy function band in the Southwest. So he's doing sort of big things now, and sometimes I think he even plays bass for some people, like, I don't know, other cover bands. So that's cool. But this is a dog that he met called Fenton. He's probably gone by now anyway. But yeah, this is Fenton now, Bill. He's turned into a real sausage. Well, that colour's gone really weird. I'm going to turn that off. Say hello, Fenton. It's Bill Banwell. He plays bass for Building in the Skyscrapers. Sometimes he plays weddings and stuff. One day he's going to do really big things. Yeah. By the way, people, if you are watching, you should probably Google Bill Banwell because he's actually quite a decent bass player. But he is ginger. That's a problem. So yeah, I'm going to end this here unless anyone has any questions. What does Fenton play? He plays with socks mostly. He really likes socks. So yeah, I've answered what I think are better choices than that pedal show guys for some gear for beginners or on a budget. I'll put some links in the description and stuff. On the guitar front, I need to do some research because I'm not sure exactly what I would pick for that. But Squier aren't a terrible choice. I think Yamaha Pacificas might be a slightly better choice. And this is the dog. Don't buy a dog if you're on a budget. Some of them make other dogs have puppies, which is a problem. Right, see you later. Cheers then.